sucked into. All right, Karen. Now we're live. I know we do need some music. I'm trying to figure it out. What's up, Caleb? I was just telling
Hey,
them,
Caleb.
and I'll play it for you real quick too. I made with a little countdown, and I was just telling them, and then what I figured I'd do is have some questions for our topic this week. Come on, but I can't figure out how to make it play. And then the other problem I had, let me put my earphone in too. The other problem I had with that was, I don't know where it went. That's not good. Oh, here it is. I wanted to be able to talk to the guests or Andrew beforehand and not hear that. So it's a slow process. Karen, how are you tonight?
Hello, Joe.
And Karen, wherever that guy took Sean to that fishing pond, I really wanted to go to that swimming hole and cool off. That looked awesome. And if you're just joining us for the first time, we usually, before we actually start what some might call a show, we kind of go and just chit chat a little bit, a little extra for showing up early. Huh. And like Caleb says, Merry Christmas in July. All right. Well, without further ado, I guess we'll get going here. So, hey guys, and welcome to the But Mostly Disney podcast. And that's my podcast voice. I don't know why I start that way, but I always do. And with me, as always, is my friend on the other end, Andrew.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
And we have a real treat for you tonight. If you come on, is our buddy Jason Cowell, who is a DVC owner and is going to tell us the ins and outs and goods and bads of doing it. Thanks for coming on, Jason.
Sure.
So here's a real quick story if you don't listen every week, because I think this is fascinating. And if I'm not 100%, I got really, really sick yesterday. So I'm recovering. I'm still a little dizzy when I stand up. I got sick at the dentist. They put some topical thing on my gums before they do the little water cleaning, and it made me like, I was really, really sick. But anyway, recovering. And so Jason popped in to sent me a DM one week and said, hey, I live kind of near you. And I had a buddy I played football with in high school who had a friend named Tater. And sure enough, it was me. And not only was it me, but his friend is actually the guy who gave me my nickname. So it's a really small world and it's awesome. All right. So we are going to run through. Andrew, have you thought about DVC, Andrew?
Yeah, I had a bad experience one time talking to somebody, and then I think 4 years ago we went through the tour at the Riviera, but we
It's
didn't
expensive,
pull the plug.
right?
Yeah, we're out.
So we took a tour of. I know we were staying at the Polynesian, and I know we went in the Polynesian. They had a room mocked up, but I can't remember what it was mocked up for. And though I loved it, I came home and did some research, and I just wasn't sure because at that time, look, we started going to Disney in like 2006, and we've gone every year as a family, and we bought a hotel room. Well, not every year, that's true. First 5 years we stayed off property, so that was a pretty good deal. But after that, we've stayed on property every year and gotten a rack room or on sale hotel room. So we've definitely spent our. It would have paid for itself by now without.
I'm sure for us as well.
At least a good deposit, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that was the thing is that, I couldn't afford it at the time. And everything I read said that if you can't afford to pay cash, it's of dubious value. Like if you have to finance it, that the finance charges are going to hurt.
It depends, because that's what we wound up. We were at Art of Animation when we took the tour. We were on our third every other year trip kind of thing. And we saw them in the front lobby every time we walked by. And Tater, it's a long walk to get down to the Little Mermaid section of Art of Animation. Well, so we passed by and we just decided to ask about it. And we took the tour. And back then they were giving fast passes because you were supposed to only be there for about 2 hours. And they give away a fast pass for doing the tour, which is cool. So, we, my wife and I, my stepdaughter and her daughter, so we had our granddaughter with us. They actually put our granddaughter in a little daycare center that they had there. It was like a kids play area for the kids, and she had a great time. They had one of the DVC counselors there, and she got to do arts and crafts and play with the other kids and all that kind of stuff. So it was really cool. While we went and did business. I don't remember who our salesman was. He actually left about 2 years after we bought in, and but Don Deal is now our current salesman, and he contacts us every now and then, and we get emails and phone calls and messages and things like that. But we were also we were figuring we're spending thousands of dollars on these packages, and we'd go and. Of course, you get the tickets, and back then the Magical Express, and the room, and the dining plan. We always do the dining plan, and it was one of those things. It was just like we're always spending money here, and one of the things is you'll never get the money back, and you'll never be able to use it in the future, and that's what hit us. We were planning every other year to keep going, and that's how we first started with DVC. Was they gave us enough points to do a room for 5 nights every other year. And that's how they sold it to us.
So how many points do you have?
So currently I have 186 points.
Have you bought more since you started?
I bought and sold since I've started. So
wow.
I bought direct. We bought direct when we first started. My wife and I went on our honeymoon at Animal Kingdom. That's our home resort. Of course, we did the Savannah room. That's the Savannah View. So that was the reason for doing Animal Kingdom, was so we could get a Savannah room. Of course, we live on a farm, so we see animals all the time. But zebras and ostriches and wildebeests and all that kind of stuff are kind of and giraffes and all that. It's really kind of cool. And we actually did a nighttime safari then, and that was pretty neat as well. But during that trip, we decided that we needed more points. What they call add-on-itis hit really hard. So we had 60 points to begin with. That first year, they gave us, previous year's points and those points. So we actually had 120 to use in that first year. And we did. We went out on our own, first time ever without kids. And, we went on our own. And we decided then that we needed more to bring all the kids. My wife's got three children, and they've all got children, and we figured we'd need a 3-bedroom grand villa, and that's where it all started. So unfortunately her father passed away, and we decided to use some of his inheritance to buy a small contract to add on to that 60 points. So we technically have 86 direct points. I then learned about the resale process, and I bought 2 contracts through a resale company. And I don't know if I can name the name, but through the resale company. Okay, so DVC Resale is where I went and bought them.
Was it a good experience?
Oh, it was a great experience.
Well, then,
I mean, the DVC Direct was easy. No big deal as far as finding. I mean, we didn't have the cash. We were just getting started. We didn't have the cash for that kind of thing. But they put us on a mortgage basically, and it's tax deductible, and we were able to pay in 10 years was the length of the contract, or the length of the mortgage, and our contract actually expires at Animal Kingdom. I believe it's 2052, I believe. So we'll have Animal Kingdom at our disposal, so to speak, for another 25, 26 years. We don't have to go there. That was the other thing. We don't have to keep going to the same resort. There's 14 original ones, Riviera, and the new cabins are under the new resale restrictions, and Disneyland Tower is also under those restrictions. But we're able to go to any one of those with direct points, and unfortunately we won't be able to use the resale. So, but I think I can do some finagling and get that kind of thing taken care of. But we actually have access to all of them because of those direct points we have.
And you don't get that through the resale, is that correct?
On some of them. So I know, like
okay.
Riviera, if you buy a Riviera contract, you can only use those points at Riviera. So
Gotcha.
it's that Disney decided to do those restrictions a few years ago, actually, when Riviera first started. But you're actually not allowed to use those anywhere else. You have to use them at Riviera if you buy resale points.
Because they want to keep you in the bubble, right? They prefer, because they have first right of refusal if you sell them, correct?
Yes, they do. So part of the resale process is you put in there's you respond to an ad, and they then submit it to Disney for right of first refusal. And if they choose to take it, then your deposit gets held until you find another contract, and you just move on with the next one.
Gotcha.
For a while there, because the Polynesian Tower was opening up, they were buying a lot of Polynesian points, so they'd have extra points to give up for direct sale, because that's what they'll do. They'll buy these points at a great rate, and then turn around and sell them again directly to folks. So
Right.
that's the nature of the business. So hey, somebody's giving them away at 130 a point, we can sell them for 230 a point, kind of thing. So
Right. Now, when you sell points, do you lose money, or does it come out kind of even?
well, so far I've only done the one contract, and I actually had it for about 2 years, and I came out just a little bit ahead. The prices are just going up. I mean, it's they're not going down. It's never going to happen. I don't, unless something drastic changes. There's always going to be price increases, and that includes the DVC stuff.
Okay.
So we joined.
Sorry, let me
Go
ask
ahead.
you this real quick. So, in saying that, let's just pretend it's $100 a point. I'm just making that up. If you do that for your term, it's all you bought those points. That's out of it. The only thing that's going to go up is your dues each year, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And the dues are related to the cast members that take care of the
Sure.
facilities, and and the folks that you meet at the front desk and all that kind of stuff, and the ambassadors that they have. We actually, on our first trip, we took the tour of the resort, and there was a young man there from somewhere in Africa, and he took us around the resort and told us all of the little things that that were all the little details on the walls, and the artistry, and and all that type of stuff. He actually told us that Disney actually holds more African artifacts than the Smithsonian does.
Wow.
And between those two resorts, Jambo House and Kidani, I could believe it. There's a lot of stuff in those two facilities that just it's amazing, some of the things.
Yeah, and so.
But yeah,
Go ahead.
so yeah, the dues go to pay for those folks, pay for their whatever the room and board for some, and their income for the others, because some of them have this full-time job, so.
And that's pretty typical, right? So I mean, I think Disney had trouble getting started with because timeshare had such a bad name, right? It was, even in the 70s and 80s, it just was sleazy sales tactics. It just wasn't great. But
Right.
obviously it was a whole lot of money, and Eisner couldn't overlook that, right?
Right.
And knowing that us Disney folks will buy almost any. I mean, my son makes fun of me. We go to TJ Maxx, and if there's something with a Mickey on it, I don't care if it's got, if it's a girl's makeup bag, I'm going to look at it like a moth to a flame. And I do think, I'll spoiler alert, you don't have to wait to the end of the podcast. I do think DVC is probably a good deal, and I think at this point we probably made a mistake not buying it sooner, right? But just financially, I was scared, right? What if I couldn't make payments? We were young, just starting out, 3 kids, a new mortgage. It was a lot, and then, and you can tell me if I'm stupid here or not. The other thing is, I like staying in the hotel parts of the resort, and what I mean by that is, so the first place we stayed that I think was DVC was at Wilderness Lodge in the DVC section, which was awesome. I mean, beautiful rooms, a lot more space. They had the Carolwood railroad down in the little lobby there. I mean, it was incredible.
Hmm.
But we had to walk back over and get our drinks and walk back. And look, first world problems. I totally understand that. But when we stayed at the Contemporary when the kids were little, that was like the first place they ever got to run free. Like we just said, okay, go down and get your hot chocolate and your Gatorade, and they'd troop down and come back, and they didn't have to leave the building. Then we recently, like 3 years ago, we stayed at Saratoga, which is a very different Disney experience. And now we were at Key West, Old Key West last week, which was their first resort. And now I'm kind of getting used to that idea. Like now I'm kind of wondering, like, But if I wanted to alternate my vacations, Jason, so like 1 year I wanted to stay on property like a regular person, and then the next year in a DVC property, does that make sense to own DVC to do that?
So there's actually the same company that runs DVC Resale has a rental program, and they've got a swap program where you can swap your points for other vacations. With Epic Universe going on right now, they have programs where you can rent your DVC points and buy a package over at Universal. So you can do that kind of thing. You can also just rent it for cash and use that cash to pay for, an off-site type of thing as well. So that group, World of DVC is the name of the company. They've actually just changed their name because they've grown quite a bit here all of a sudden. There's quite a few other little companies that have attached. You can buy park tickets through one of their organizations. You can finance through one of their so you can buy on the resale, finance with their Monera group, and then you can rent it if you can't use it, or if you choose not to use it. It's basically all within the same roof. So it's a great little program. And I listen to their podcast every week as well. And they've been around for a long, long time, and they got a lot of details, a lot more details than I'll ever be able to understand. They have folks that go word for word through the contract and can figure everything out. So that it's that kind of group. There's a lot of knowledgeable people. There's no stupid questions. No questions have been asked 15 times already. That kind of thing, and they'll take care of any questions that you've got, kind of thing. But yeah, you can rent your points for money or for another package and use them that way. And actually, you can use it for cruise. I have not.
Okay.
We thought about it and decided to go against it, and then realized we probably should have done it. So we were actually staying at the tree houses, and we're going to Universal that year. So it's a great place. The great tree houses were nice. They're quiet, but like you said, it's like Key West. They're on the other side of the property, and it's not anywhere near the central location where all the food is and all the drink machines and all that kind of stuff. So it was
and so
quite a hike.
I could get my own drinks, right? I could figure that out. That's not a big problem.
Yeah.
What I didn't love was getting to and from the pool, right? Like, so at Old Key West, there was a quiet pool near us, and it was beautiful and perfect. But if we wanted to go to the main pool and hit the slide and grab a burger, we were driving, right? Or taking a bus, which I like even less. And what I found is not so much that it was bad, but more that it meant that when we got home, we're like, you want to run up to the pool? No, let's just skip it. I'm gonna go to bed. I don't feel like changing. Whereas if I'm at Yacht Club, then I will just pop right down, and jump in the pool at 10:45, knowing it's closing at 11. So that changes things. But my kids are getting older, and we love going. And I know a lot of folks who live in Orlando and have DVC and use it for weekends here and there.
So I have a question.
Or they use it for their relatives when they come into town too.
Both.
So I'm sorry, Andrew.
Both.
Yeah.
No, you're good.
I have no idea how to keep us from talking over each other. It's a skill that I have not mastered.
We do it. One thing that kind of threw us off, and we asked a question, and they were kind of like, "Yeah, it is what it is." We followed a school calendar because I still have one daughter in school, and it seems like there's a lot of blackout dates around every holiday. Does that change at all? Like they give like a calendar of blackout dates?
I wouldn't necessarily call it blackout days. There are weeks and days that are very difficult to get into.
Okay.
Um, if we stay with our home resort, so if we do a Animal Kingdom, we get the opportunity to reserve our room 11 months away. So,
Oh,
like I was
okay.
telling Tater, I just for next May booked our next trip at Jumbo House, and trying to get into club level. We actually got club level. It's been 11 years with DVC, and we actually got into club level this year. And it was really nice.
Oh,
So,
yeah, we've
um,
stayed there at club level before.
but yeah, I mean, so if you book into your home resort, you get 11-month window, and you get that whether you buy direct or resale. It's your
Okay.
home resort. Um, and then at 7 months, you're allowed to book at any of the other ones. So the word of advice is to get your home resort booked so you have the room, and hopefully there's time. It's not at such a crazy time that all the rooms are booked up. But so you get your 11-month window, you book your room, and then you go looking to change around your 11-month window or your 7-month window. I'm sorry. So
Mm,
so you're looking to go to, let's say you're going like Thanksgiving time. So you're looking at starting your reservations in January.
Okay, so
And
you've got a safety net built in. So worst case scenario, you go to your home resort and have
basically,
a great vacation, and
gotcha.
best
right,
case, you
yeah.
go to
So
your
you
Yes.
you know
resort.
you still got the reservation. It may not, you may want to change it
Thanks,
somewhere or
buddy.
something, but you've got a reservation. So, but like I said, it's always busy. Those holidays are always busy because of
Oh, yeah,
schools,
no matter where you're staying,
and
DC or not.
so and the point values are higher then too. So it's one of those things where you've got to figure when you buy into DVC, you've got to figure when do you think you're going to go and how many people you think are going to go at that time. So, it's, we were always looking at the summertime, and that's how they figured us out. We were low points values, and we were going every other year. So we only really needed this many points at Animal Kingdom. So that's how it
Gotcha.
worked out. But nowadays you can, there's so many charts, and you can figure out where and when you want to go and what the points values are going to be for say a 1 bedroom um, at Animal Kingdom at Thanksgiving. So there's a chart there on the points charts are published every year, and for the next year. So I believe in 2026 their points charts are already out. Um, so if you're planning for next year's trip, you already know how much you got to spend and where you got to go to get it. So and if you don't have enough, you go buy resales or buy more
Yeah.
direct.
Can you supplement with cash?
I don't believe you can, but you can buy extra points. You're allowed to buy 24 more points. Um, and I believe they're like $17 a point now. I'm not 100% sure on that. So you can spend a little extra money and get 24 extra points to complete your reservation kind of thing.
Just for that year, not permanent points forever.
Right. Yeah. Just for that one reservation. So, but also you were allowed to use 3 years worth of points.
Right.
So if I didn't use last year's points and I have all of this year's points, I can combine those two to make a reservation this year. And if I need more, I can borrow from 2027 to fulfill whatever reservation I'm trying to do. So you have the available, you've got 3 years worth of points you can use to make a reservation.
So and so you're thrilled with this, right? You love it.
Oh, we love it. We've gone so many times. We went 3 times in 2023. We've gotten 3 bedroom Grand Villa for the family the one time during one of the hurricanes, as a matter of fact. So
Oh
it was
wow.
kind of scary. We had all these glass windows up, 2 stories high, and there's this hurricane blowing outside in the savannah.
Yeah, you'd be
But
okay.
yeah, it was great, because everybody says that's where you want to be during a hurricane. So
That's right.
that's where we were. But they closed the parks then. It's no big deal, and they treated everybody really well. They had meals readily available. Reservations into the dining facilities there were easy to get to, and you can stand there and wait for them if you wanted, because they weren't taking any outside reservations. Characters were walking around the lobby. They had they had all kinds of stuff for the kids to do and things like that, keep them entertained since you couldn't go into the parks. But so we've been to quite a few of the resorts. We haven't been to all of them. We probably won't get to all of them. Wanted to try and get to Aulani this next year, but we did club level, and that's where we want to go now. We don't really want to go to Hawaii, but because we're Animal Kingdom is our home resort, we could book Alani rooms at 7 months. So if we go next May, we could start looking in November.
What's the window on rental points?
That I don't know.
Just curious.
From what I understand, you can buy an existing reservation, rent it from somebody basically, or you can buy their points. From what I understand, I'm not 100% sure. Like I said, I've never done it. I've never had to use it.
I just did it. So I went to the DVC store. I saw it on Tim Tracker's deal, and I said, let's give it a try on his podcast, on his YouTube videos. So I went in there and picked Kidani, and I said the days I wanted to go, and it gave me like an estimate of what it would cost. So when I said yes, that was it. I had to pay a deposit, and then it went out to their interwebs, and one of the owners came back and said, yeah, I'll do it for this. So we got kind of like almost like in a bidding war. So I want to see what cheap as I get it for. So I got 4 days for like $1,000, and it's a studio room at Kidani.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of it's kind of give you an idea, and then that person come back and say, "Well, I will do it for this because I'm not using my points that time of year, and you can pay X, Y, Z," and you kind of go back and forth a little bit. But it was a pretty cut and dry experience. I got my confirmation number. I put it in Disney's website. It popped up. It loaded everything. I've been getting emails from Disney about your upcoming trip in August, so it seems to work pretty flawless.
Did you look and see what that room would have been if you
Cash
booked it rack?
Yeah, it was like $750
a night.
a night. Yeah,
That's a pretty substantial savings.
yeah.
Because my wife, and God bless her, I swear, honey, I'm trying if she's listening. But if I don't take her to Hawaii, then she's going to divorce me. And she's like, we don't have to stay at Alani. We can go somewhere else. I'm like, nope. If I'm going, I don't know when I'm going back, and I'm going to stay at Alani, and that's where I want to be. So I think I looked, and I should have done it closer to doing this, but I didn't. It was a pretty good savings renting points to go to Alani as opposed to booking the hotel.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the rental is, you save so much more than buying rack rate. And I guess the disadvantage is you don't really get the package deals when you buy it like that. When you buy rack rate, you get some kind of package deal, or you get free dining, or you get some little extra spiff that Disney kicks out.
Well,
and
I will tell you this: you said you love the dining plan, and I still do. I still do think it's great. I have a spreadsheet that I could send you. You can fill in your meals, and they'll tell you where to pay cash, where not to pay cash, how much you're saving. And I think the last time we did it, I saved about a little over $300 by using the dining plan. But it was like steak and lobster at every meal. We ate so much food. And I've just gotten older now, where sometimes my wife and I just split something, right? Instead of my son could eat the entire dining plan himself, but we just don't eat that much food, so we've kind of stopped doing that.
Yeah, it's become a little hard to come home with food every time and then not take it.
Right.
Because we fly. We usually fly, and I'm not going to carry food to the airport and leave it in the heat. So
we almost always drive. So I can.
Do you get a discount on annual passes? Like if you're a DVC member, do you get like I have the credit pass, so I pay the top line. So does Tater. He pays the top line price. If we were DVC members, would we get a discount on that at all?
So the DVC members actually get the Florida resident. I'm not sure which one it is. So they qualify to get the Florida resident one. And then I believe there's a discount for all the other ones as well. So,
now that's interesting.
Never bought an annual pass yet either. We don't ever go that often, so we're not driving by my house every other month. So,
well, and that's the thing is once I started doing the YouTube stuff, I always looked at it, but you really have to go 10 times to make your money. And our trips were typically 5 park days. We'd go, like we try to go park day off, park day off, park day off is our optimal trip. It doesn't always work out. So it didn't make any sense. And then I've been trying to go once a month And so now, I mean, I think not including hotel rooms because I forgot to add it in, but I think I saved a little over $700 in food discounts, merchandise discounts, coffee. Joffrey's alone, I saved like $100, just by drinking that coffee. So I'm really pleased. And then the renewal was a little cheaper, right? It wasn't quite
Yeah, a couple $100 cheaper.
Yeah, a little bit cheaper than.
But there's always other DVC discounts, and now you have the DVC lounges, which I'm a little jealous of.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's I'm not. I think it's a good idea. I miss the shooting gallery, but I do think it's a cool idea that there's something special because you guys are paying a lot of money, and keeping this thing afloat. So I don't begrudge it. I just want to go, right? And so are you guys still every other year?
No, we're actually every year now. So it's turned into that. Like I said, we bought what they consider a hybrid membership because we have direct points and resale points. So we've actually got 186, 86 are direct and 100 from resale. So we've got enough where we can go every year. Like I said, we've tapped into quite a few points for the concierge club, and then the 2-bedroom we're doing next year. So it's 2027 is probably not going to happen. It's just we don't have enough points to make that happen.
Right.
And so be it. It's not, things aren't going to change that much, and they're going to be there when we get there the next time anyway. So it's one of those things. It's the same with the annual pass. You don't get there this time, you'll do it the next time you come in. It's a great way. When we were buying the package, we were up at 6 o'clock. We were getting back at 2 a.m. because we had to do it all.
Right.
Because it'd be another 2 years before we got back. And it's now we don't. It's no rush, and we actually spent more time in the resort this last time because we did the check-in day water park, and with DVC, we actually qualified for a midnight magic night, and so we got to go into Epcot after hours. And
he froze up.
Yep, froze up.
Yeah,
I froze.
Oh, there you go. I can hear you. There you go. You're back.
All right, so we got to do the Epcot for free that one night, and then the next 2 days we went into we went to the Penn store out in Lakeland. I think it's Lakeland, and then that not the vintage store, but the other one where the Forever, all those extra
Forever Vintage.
Disney. Yeah, no, we didn't make that one. That was the one I couldn't remember.
Lakeland
But we went
Antique
to the one. Yes, and the pin trading one and Character Warehouse. So we went to all three of those one day, and we spent the day doing that. So it's just they're a lot more relaxing now. We can go and do things like that, and go to Universal and spend the day at Universal.
Well,
you name it.
Excuse me. We plan to retire down there. Some of it's going to depend on our kids and where they go. But the cool thing is having, and look, if you go to my YouTube channel, shameless plug, my wife and I did a day at Animal Kingdom and a day at Epcot with no rides, no attractions, just movies and shows and walking around. And I was thinking to myself, gosh, if I lived here, we could have dinner and just say, let's go grab a snack and go for a walk. Like literally just walk around, the showcase and see stuff. I mean, walking through Disney Springs is the same way, right?
Yep.
I'm just amazed every night that this is a mall. I mean, it's a mall at an elevated level, but still, this is the mall, right? I could come shop here. It's crazy. So those days off are really nice. And I didn't do it on purpose, but our kids, I think after a few years and once they got old enough to understand it, then they realized Peter Pan's 90 minutes. Yeah, Dad, we'll do that next year. It's okay. Or if it comes back around, we'll be okay. So I got lucky. I didn't do it on purpose. All right. So can you give us an idea? And you might not be able to, what it's like I know it's 10 or 20% down, right? I think I read that depending on what financing option you choose. But the rates are like somewhere between 8 and 15%, I think.
Yeah, they're ridiculous.
So I'm still paying on the one resale, and I'm currently paying like $195 a month right now. And that's for 100 points. And I believe that was a 10-year contract, or 10-year mortgage.
And you put 10% or 20% down?
I think it was 5% when we put that down, to be honest with you. It's been so long since I signed that paperwork. But yeah, I mean, it's not horrible,
Okay,
and that mortgage debt payment doesn't change. Once you start it, it never changes. It's the dues that end up changing, So
so
it's and I pay that on a monthly basis too.
yeah, and that's not bad. I mean, so Google says that starting members is 12.5%, 11.5 for existing, but there are other companies that will specialize in DVC financing with rates as low as 9. And you're not going to get a loan for something like that, much less than that anyway, with a
Right.
15-year term, 10% down.
Right.
But that's the thing is, I mean, if Disney was 11, or let's call it 12, and you can get it for 9, that's a big savings over 15 years.
Right.
Again, I think about every penny that I can eke out of
Well,
everything. Will they
and the
have
re-
assessments?
what do you mean?
Will they have assessments like, we have a place up in the mountains, and if they need to redo the roofs, then you might get our an assessment that pops it up. Oh,
Well, they do. Yeah, they do an annual review for the dues, and that's what your dues do. They pay for the maintenance, they pay for the cast members there, and all that kind of stuff. So, and every year since we started, our dues have gone up. I mean, I'm paying for the 186 points. I'm paying $151 a month right now. It's all at Animal Kingdom, and it all pays for the animal programs. It all pays for the cast members. It pays for the upkeep on the facilities themselves.
So that will never change.
That actually changes. That changes from year to year. Change. So yeah, the dues change from year to year. But, because it's linked to a cost of increase in what income for the employees and all. And it doesn't cost the same for a bale of hay to feed the giraffes, and every year that goes up a little bit. So it's the vet care and all that kind of stuff. So all the DVC members that own an Animal Kingdom pay for those facility expenses basically, and the animals are part of that expense.
So how much were they when you started?
I want to say they were somewhere around 120, something like that.
And you're at what now? You said, I'm sorry.
We're like at 151. Oh.
10 years into it, or 8
I mean, it's not bad. I mean, it's not bad. It really isn't. I mean, and it's one of those things, it keeps the magic there.
Right.
It keeps it nice. You want to keep going back, and it's hey, if I can pay for a little, coat of paint here and there, that's great.
So, Andrew, tell me, you said you had a bad experience with a DVC.
Yeah, so probably 6 years ago, we were staying at the boardwalk. We were leaving, and they had the DVC kiosk right there. And at the time, working for General Motors, we got points that we could transfer to cash or gift cards and stuff like that, which I wish they still had because they used to pay for my trips. I would just use all the points I would get and buy gift cards, and then we put that towards our trips. And we were leaving. My parents had gone with us for the first time, and my daughter's 5th birthday was in. And the guy was at the kiosk. He was talking to my wife, and she explained to him how we were going on the trips. And he made a comment, "Oh, thanks for spending all that money. You can save some." She said, "Well, once again, my husband gets these points through work. He transfers them to cards." Well, I'm loading up the Tahoe, and he looks at my 5-year-old and says, "Hey, sweetie, would you like to stay a little longer if Mom and Daddy had to take a little trip, and you and Grandma and Grandpa can go back to the parks?" Well, a 5-year-old's going to say, "Heck yeah."
Yes.
Then my wife goes, "Sir, I told you we're leaving," and my daughter starts bawling. And I see this as I'm loading the car up. And my dad's at the desk trying to get, this is back when they were charging for parking. And my dad's like, "I didn't drive. I rode with my son. I don't know why I'm paying for parking." So he was getting that taken care of. It was just a bad morning. And I see my wife and daughter walk out. My mom's walking up with her. I get the last piece of luggage. And the guy says something to me. I said, "What'd you say to my kid?" He goes, "Well, I'm just trying to help y'all save money by being a DVC member." And I'm like, "Well, we're not ready to do that yet." And I said, "Well, what'd you say to my kid to make her cry?" And he told me, and I was like, "Oh," I just like, "Thanks a lot. Appreciate it." So I live in Charleston, Jason. So for 5.5 hours driving home, I'm stewing.
I can see it.
I am, pardon my language, pissed. And, had a great trip, and then this ends it. So I get home, and I start looking for email addresses. I'm finding DVC president. I can't think of his name. He's this Greek gentleman. He was the president of Walt Disney World at the time. I just started finding all his email addresses, and I email him, tell him what happened. Well, I didn't expect to hear anything, but a week goes by. I get an email from George's assistant saying, "Hey, I want to talk to you." And we talked for a little bit, and they, out of the blue, sent my daughter a little care package. But what I thought was cool about the whole deal was I get a call from Josh Tomorrow, this guy George, the president of DVC, and the guy that talked to my wife and daughter that day. They went back and found out who worked the kiosk that day. And this guy had to apologize to me over the phone. And I was like, all right, I, changed my mind a lot because, as a lot of people think, oh, it's just a timeshare. They're trying to get after your money and all this stuff. And I thought it was very good of them to do that. And, but yeah, the guy was like, well, thanks for spending all your money. And I'm like, dude, why are you acting like this? That was our first time. And then, like I said, we went to Riviera, and I don't remember the lady's name. She was very nice. My wife fell in love with what I call the presidential suite at the Riviera, and the big family suite. But when we sat down and talked about money and the fact that we go down twice a year, we go for 2 weeks at a time frame, it was like $60,000 for the point value that she told us. And I was like, how much?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking in my mind, being in the car business, that's equivalent to a fully loaded Suburban or Tahoe. And I'm like, no, we can't afford that right now.
Right.
But,
Well, and that's, some
we've
quick
talked
math.
about it, and, who's to say down the road we don't change our mind and do it. But at the
Right.
time that we talked to him, was like, I don't have that kind of money.
And you can will it to your kids, right?
Yes.
I do know that. Yep.
But it ends, correct? It's up 50 years or?
Yeah. So you get a 50-year. Each resort has a 50-year contract. So basically, and if you buy in, so we bought in after Animal Kingdom had sold out. So we're 48 or 46 years left of when we bought in. So when that expires in 2052, I believe is the date on that one. So like I said, we got 26 more years where we can vacation there. But once that time ends, the contract ends. There's no more, so you'll have to do again, buy into one of the new ones. That Lakeshore looks pretty nice. I might be interested in looking at that. And,
So if you take that 60 grand and I figure on average, and we actually probably spend a little more, but $5 grand a trip on hotel rooms, you only have to go 12 times to pay it off. And that's probably low. It's probably less. You probably could do it on like Karen's saying here. Hey, look, it's old Jeff C stopping by. How nice is that? What's up, my man? If you don't know Jeff, he is an AI wizard and really just a nice guy. But Karen says here, the lowest possible tier at the lowest possible resort to go do it, and that might work. I'm interested to see what that looks like now. To see what kind of value you could do it, because I know it's a better value. Like that's no secret. I know it's better. I know it's cheaper than going. You've still got to add food onto there because we spend. I mean, I hate to admit this, but this year maybe not quite as much. But last year, if we'd have done our regular trip, and we definitely went to, oh my gosh, not moderate. What's the next one? Deluxe resorts. Holy cow. Told you I was sick. And we'd always done deluxe resorts, which I have changed my mind on. I'm comfortable anywhere now. We were spending, it would have been 10 grand. Now that would have included dining plans. So that would have included food and tickets, right? But I mean, our tickets this year, it was my oldest kid. I don't know if I've mentioned has an internship at Pixar. So they're out in California.
No, really?
That in the Polynesian lobby, right?
Yeah.
No, but
I was going to bring up the Polynesian lobby too.
Right, because that drives me so insane.
Sore subject.
If I buy some DVZ points, will they build that lobby back the way it was?
Probably not.
No, I'm doomed. But I've enjoyed, again, the biggest requirement for us as a family is a hot tub. My wife likes a hot tub, and so do I. I blame her, but me as well. And so the moderate resorts just don't cover that for me. Or I'm sorry, the value resorts don't cover that. But I like staying there. The pools are nice.
Right.
The grounds are nice. I think All Stars are great resorts as long as they're not a cheerleading convention, right in front of your room.
Or Run Disney.
Right. So I know it's a good deal, but then I've got to pay X amount of dollars. And I think when we looked, Andrew, it was like $34,000 for what we wanted to do. and that would have been the total price plus, so 10% down, 20% down, and then I don't even remember what the payments were, but at the time it was close enough for me to think about it. And then I think I did go look for some alternative funding, but we ended up not doing it.
Well, I think if we kind of did this. Hey, if we were going to come down here, how many times a year do we want to come down? And we didn't really look at it as, hey, you know, is it 6 days instead of 12 or 5 or 4? We just we were sitting with a lady. She said, okay, what is your plan? And I'm like, well, this is our plan. And when they threw the number out at me, I was like, I'm sorry. Can you do the math one more time? Because that just can't be right. Which she gave us all the information. Came home. I did the information myself, and it was right. It was just like, wow. But like you say, if you sit there and do the math, I've probably spent that already.
You've absolutely spent it.
Yes. Yeah.
And then basically you're getting 38 years more out of what you spent on that.
Right.
Right. And then once you're done with the payments, you're there. You've got it. You go every year, every other year, whatever you choose to do.
And another $2,000 a year for your vacation, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You're just paying the dues.
Right. I'm an idiot.
I noticed it's if and one of the things that everybody says is, "Oh, I wish I'd started earlier," and you can't go back now. I think Old Key West when they first started was like, I want to say it was like $76 a point.
Wow.
But you had to buy 150, I think was the minimum, like it is now. You got to buy 150 now to get the DVC discounts and all the benefits, which can disappear at the drop of a hat too. Something can become too expensive to do anymore and they'll stop doing it. When we first started, we used to get Christmas, ornaments every year from DVC. We used to get all this little, these nice little trinkets and stuff. And ever since COVID, things just haven't ever gotten back to where they were.
Right.
Moonlight Magic started back, and we've got some of those extra parties and things that have come back since then. But things have changed. It's one of those things. So that's one of the reasons you consider resale. Resale is like $100 less per point in some cases, and so you're not paying like $34,000 for $150 or 150 point contract.
And I think you mentioned
can buy smaller increments and stuff like that.
Right. I think you mentioned. So what are the negatives of resale market?
So with the new resorts, it's got some negatives. So you mentioned Riviera. That. If you buy a Riviera, you can only use it at Riviera. You can't use your resale points at the newer ones. So the Cabins, Riviera, and Disneyland Tower. Now Polynesian Tower has fallen into the old contract, so you can use them there. They're part of the original 14, so you can still use them for those points. That contract. And like I said, the value is just so much cheaper to buy them resale, and but you don't get the benefits. You don't get the discounts at the merchandise, and sometimes you don't get to go to the parties. There are certain things that you can do as a resale member, but there are a lot of things that you can't.
All right, so let's say 100 points would take, or let's say 150 points would take care of my vacation each year, and I buy 100 direct points and 50 resale points. What do I lose by buying the extra 50 in resale?
So you don't get the DVC benefits.
Okay, at all, even though you're hybrid.
At all, right?
Okay.
You have to buy at this point. We got grandfathered in when we bought our first contract at 60. We were above the minimum points values to get the direct points or direct discounts. So we're actually considered direct, accounts.
Oh, that's nice.
And we have the DVCY on our Google card, whatever it is now that they request at the cash registers. But now you need 150 points direct, and then you'll get that DVCY on your card, and you'll be able to get all those discounts for merchandise and foods and things like that. It doesn't count at the quick serve locations or things like that, but it's still a discount.
So wait a minute, let me make sure so if I bought 175 points and then 25 resale, then I would get the Disney benefits.
Yes.
Okay. So it's that 150 number that puts you either.
Right now this year it's the 150 number, and it's been like that for about the last 4 years. So.
Okay. Well, and that would make sense anyway, because I mean, for what I'd want to do, I'd be buying more than 150 points, I'm sure.
The other thing is when you buy direct from Disney, you get your points right now.
Right.
So when you
Oh,
buy through the resale, you got to go through the approvals and all the paperwork to get that timeshare transferred to your name, and it takes 60 to 90 days sometimes. So you won't see those points for another 3 months, kind of thing.
It's interesting. I looked at it because look, there are times where my wife and I just get so fed up with everything. We're like, let's just sell everything, quit our jobs, and move to Florida. And in Florida, timeshare is a licensed real estate product. So anybody who's selling you DVC is actually a licensed real estate agent. And I was like, oh, well, I'm halfway
Yes.
there. I could just get my real estate license. We had, and I will say this in case Disney's listening, we had a great experience with DVC. When we did our little tour, they grabbed me in the lobby one morning while I was getting coffee and gave us, I think, each like 3 fast passes. So a total, 15 fast passes that we could use any way we want. We had this really soft-spoken, lovely gentleman who kind of out of the gate said, look, I'm not going to tell you to buy this stuff. He's like, I own it. I love it. I know you'd benefit, but if you can't do it, don't worry. So anything I say that sounds salesy, just please disregard. He was really great. It's funny, Andrew, my mom, she was married to a Navy. She's married a couple times, but one of her husbands was in the Navy. And at the timeshare thing, they said, hey, look, we just want our free TV and we're hitting the road. And the guy said, don't you love your wife enough to give her this? And my stepdad punched him, knocked him out right at the table, walked out. So, I mean, saying something like that is so dangerous. And that's, again, I've read that it is a low pressure sale. And that's really
Absolutely.
the first story that I've heard where someone used outside timeshare tactics to try to sell DVC.
Yeah, and when we went to talk, we set everything up, and I was being very quiet, and the lady goes, "You okay, sir?" And my wife Julie was like, "You need to ask him what happened," and I did, and she's like, "I'm pretty sure that guy probably does not work for us anymore." I'm like, I'm trying to be open minded here, but they put a really bad taste in my mouth after that conversation, and she did a great job. Showing us everything and walking us around, and I think we did get a couple of fast passes each when this was 2019. No, it was a gift card. I'm sorry, they gave us a gift card.
Yeah.
But
Good.
it was good. Yeah, it was fine. Just the I knew it was expensive, but I didn't realize it was that expensive. And that's poor
Yeah, I know.
planning on my part. I didn't do any research before I went.
Well, and I love Jeff, who's moved from Facebook over to YouTube just to make sure all the views. So he's saying the same thing that I feel like we all feel like. And Karen says, yes, I agree, which is that you need an advanced degree to figure out if it's a good deal. Although I think we've kind of solved that. I think that if you can afford it, it's a good deal, like anything in life, right? But how do you do it? How do you make the most of it? Like, do you find it difficult? I know you've been doing it a long time, Jason, but do you find it difficult to use and maneuver through?
Well, so we knew nothing. We really didn't. We saw the tree houses from the water one time, taking a water taxi, and we're like, oh, those would be kind of cool to stay in, that kind of thing. We were just planning our next trip, And Andrew, unfortunately, you went at the end of they hit you at the end of your trip. And it's one of those things that you kind of have to do in the middle sometime, make it a point to stop by and make an appointment. The folks are really nice. They'll show you. And I know at Jumbo House, they have one of the rooms open. I believe it's the 3-bedroom, and they'll walk you around and, you get to see what a grand villa looks like. You got 3 separate bedrooms. You can sleep 12 people. I think it was 12 people. And Jumbo House has a pool table in the middle of the living area. And, it's all on one floor. In Kidani, it's 2 stories. It's, 2 bedrooms upstairs and the master bedroom downstairs. No pool table, but it's like a 3-bedroom apartment.
Right.
And there's plenty of bathrooms, there's plenty of space. We buy groceries and we store them, in the kitchen, and we'll make breakfasts and go out and have lunch, and maybe bring it back, come back and have a dinner somewhere, or just make dinner there. You have those kind of options available because you've got a full kitchen when you get a 1 bedroom or higher. The deluxe studios just have a microwave and a refrigerator, which is fine. I mean, you can still warm up some stuff and do breakfast and stuff like that. But it's one of those things. Just for an example, Animal Kingdom right now, it averages about where is it? I lost it. I mean, it's $215 a point direct, and it's $20.57 when that lease expires. And the resale price is $108 a point. I mean, do the math. Resale is way better as far as getting into the contract, but still, again, you don't get the benefits.
So
but the benefits don't always work out to themselves either.
So if it's a 50-year term, can you still buy points at 25 years into that term? And is it cheaper to do that?
No, you can still buy points direct, but you're going to pay the price.
Okay. Wow. So it's better to get in at the beginning.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, unfortunately, like I said, Polynesian Tower joined into their previous contract, so they're going to get the whatever's left on that contract, and it's a brand new facility, but they're going to get whatever's left, like 46 years or something like that. But Disneyland Tower, 50 years. So 75, that lease will expire. So, the cabin is going to be 2074.
Right, I'll be long gone by then, I'm sure.
Right.
Have you, aside from club level, have you missed a reservation you really wanted? Was it difficult? Because that's the complaint about regular timeshares. Oh, travel the world, go to the Bahamas, go to Monte Carlo for Baccarat season, and then you try to book a room and they're always taken. You never get what you want, right?
Yeah. So that's the Adventures by Disney, I believe that's what they're talking about with that.
Yeah.
You can use your points to do that. It's a very bad use of your points because the value for doing something like you'll take 3 years worth of points at the drop of a hat, and you still won't have enough. Wow. So it's one of those things you have to have a lot of points to go do a Grand Canyon tour, or go out west and ride the rail kind of thing. I've always wanted to do like a Viking cruise on the Rhine River. They have that now apparently. So it's one of those things that you've got to have the points, and I don't have that kind of income to have that many points. So
if you wanted to book a Rhine cruise, I know a guy who can help you.
You know a guy?
Through MEI Mouse Fan Travel for a no obligation quote. So I just threw in here at the new Polynesian Tower, and I don't know why, but I don't like saying Poly. There's a savings of 64. So my one-time cost would be $62,591.46, or $782 a month. Right?
That's direct.
That's direct.
Yeah. Okay. So.
And then my dues are $229 a month. So I'd be paying $1,000 a month.
Right. So do $156 a point.
Now I gotta go to a different thing.
So Polynesian,
280.
Right. So the Polynesian now is resale average at $156 a point.
And then I think this is where Jeff, what he's saying comes in. Now you're 43,000, so you save 20 grand just doing that. That's wild. But I think if I did it that way, and tell me if I'm wrong, I think what I would do is I would budget my direct points for every other year. And then that way, if I wanted to stay somewhere else at a regular resort, because we like to move around, right? I don't like to stay in the same place twice. Although I could probably figure it out, right? But I think what I do is, okay, we do our Polynesian Tower this year, and then next year we go to Beach Club, and then back to Polynesian Tower, and then over to Contemporary, and then back to Polynesian, and then to Pop Century, and kind of bounce around that way.
Right. You can do split stays too. So, you can book 3 or 4 nights at one, and you can do 4 or 5 nights at another. You can do 2 nights at each whichever ones you want to do. You can bounce around the resort doing that if you choose to. But and they'll move your bags and you bounce to whatever the next hotel is.
So I don't know.
A lot of people like doing that. I don't.
Right.
But
no, and we did
like
that
to unpack.
Yeah, I had some Hilton points to use up and some miles, and it really wasn't as much. I'm with you. I want to unpack the first day, stay there the whole time. I will say that my kids really got on me last year because we didn't do our big trip. We didn't do the week long. Everybody's there. I took each of them individually along with my trip to try to be cheap, for lack of a better word, and that didn't really play well in Peoria. And look, I'll sacrifice anything to take those family trips. I mean, my kids still seem to like me, and they still ask, when are we going to Disney? When are we going? And I credit Disney for a lot of that. So these trips are important. I think it's the glue that holds us together in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't know. It seems like there's so many of us that speak that way. So maybe it's just the kind of person who would be a big Disney fan is the kind of person that would treat their family like that. I don't know. Cart before the horse, or apple before the orange, egg before the shell. I don't know. Just make up saying.
Chicken before the egg.
Right, sure.
Chicken
Whatever
before the
you
egg.
want.
Yeah.
Insert Chinese proverb here. I'll make up something. What did I hear today? I thought this was to a caterpillar, the butterfly is the end, or something along those lines. And I was thinking about it, or it's also a beginning. Well, it was really cool. I'm gonna steal that and reword it as my own at some point in time, and you'll hear me say it and know that I did not make it up, but I'll pretend that I did. Well, I'm fascinated. All right. So Jeff's asking, this is perfect. What if you go multiple times a year? Does it make sense for that?
But we've done that.
So it's really,
we went three times. We went 3 times one year, and we actually had it. At that time, I had that contract that I talked about that I sold, and it was 150 extra points, and we went 3 times. And if you've got the points, you can go as many times as you like. Like you said, a lot of folks live in Orlando and do DVC, whenever they want. They go and spend a couple nights there, and they'll go have a late dinner or something and spend the night and go, leave out the next day, kind of thing. So it's you just got to balance your points. Once you buy into it, you know what you got, and then you can look at the charts and figure out when you want to go, how long you want to stay. The charts are there. They're that was the thing. We knew nothing. We knew absolutely nothing. And research is so easy to come by now on the internet. There's, like DVC Fan is the group that I've been talking about that these folks from World of DVC are on. Wealth of information. If you ask a question in there, they'll answer it. And you'll get a straightforward, there'll be no, well, it could be like this. It could be like, you'll get the answer. And it's so easy to find things out these days. 11 years ago, I wasn't that big into the internet, that's for sure. And we were at Disney. I certainly didn't have a computer with me. So it was just one of those things that the sales guy preached to the choir, and we listened along, and it made sense. It just made perfect sense. And there was no pressure. That's the thing. It was a no pressure thing. We could have walked out and been just fine, or we could have signed a contract and been just fine, one way or the other. We decided to sign the contract. We got our free ice cream at the end of it and became DVC owners that day.
I'm trying to look real quickly just to see. It doesn't tell you exactly how the points break down. So on the DVC site, it'll give me. So if I stayed at the Polynesian Bungalows in September, it's 19 points.
You don't want to do that unless you've got a lot of points. You don't want to do that.
Why is that? Just because
the bungalows are super expensive. The bungalows and the cabins at Copper Creek.
I'm sorry,
are
Deluxe
really
Studio.
Expensive parts. Yeah,
Deluxe
okay.
Studio. I apologize. You're right. So 19 points a night. Okay, here we go. 143 points for the week.
Right.
And then if I go to another spot and just see, this is good. This is good audio here. $2,000 for a resort view for a week at the Polynesian in September. And I'm not going to look up on Disney what that would cost you for a week to stay there. But Jeff, I've watched some other videos of people who do that. They live in Orlando and they bought X amount of points, call it 200 points at 2 different resorts. And then they will pop over for a weekend, or their parents come in town and they use it for that. So I don't. There's no negative. There's no liability to only using a weekend's worth instead of a week's worth. It's the same
Right.
per night, right?
Right. The
So
weekends are a little more expensive. Fridays and Saturday nights are more points.
Gotcha.
That's their weekend. But spring break, super expensive for as far as points are concerned.
Right.
Christmas, Thanksgiving, with the 4th of July coming, I don't know if that changes the points that much, but it's usually around the holidays when a lot of people are going to show up at Disney. They'll have a little higher point values on the rooms. We like to go in May. It's not so bad. We go after spring break. We go after Easter, and it's not so bad. It's a relatively good average time for us, and it's not super hot. You can go in the water and be comfortable, and you're good to go. We've been in February, it's super freezing cold at night, and it was a little cold the next day. So
Resort View, if you checked in, and I'm at Dave's Vacation Club Rentals, because that's what came up first. If I checked in on the 2nd, well, let's just do it the whole week. Let's see what happens. And checked out on the 9th at the Polynesian, it'd be $3,300. And then you add in another $3,000 for tickets, so $6,300 as opposed to probably $10,000 all day.
Yeah, because after July 5th, it's usually dead. The parks are usually dead.
Right.
That's the experience that I've seen.
My wife's a teacher, so we've always gone spring break or the summer just to make sure we're there at the busiest possible times of the year. But I think we will actually probably move our trip to January once we can. Once the kids are, after January 1st, we went down for a weekend and it was just crickets, right? Kids are going back to college, kids are going back to school. Do our family trip then, I think would be a lot of fun and a really good time. It's funny you mentioned club level. We've done it twice, and I need to do it again. If only there was anyone who would go with me. But what I need to see is we typically do our big meal at lunch, right? Which makes club level perfect because you get free breakfast and free dinner. I know it's kind of tapas, small bites, but you can make a meal out of it. Trust me.
Oh, yes.
So, we could do all of our big meals, save, like if we wanted to go Ohana for the fireworks or something. But I should do that and see how much it saves me as opposed to doing it with me. And we're not breakfast people, but we'll grab a little bite. We could do that on the way out. And I'm curious to see. My kids liked it because they had a special button and they just liked being more important than everybody else. They thought that was cool.
Right.
And it was nice and fun. We did not need the concierge. That didn't really help us out much, but it was cool.
No, yeah. The Nescafe machine was nice, but
Exactly. But if again, like this trip, I think all of our meals were lunches. Part of that's because my mom has a weird eating schedule and she can really only eat lunch anyway. So we did go to Ohana for dinner, but if we'd have been at club level, it was just a lot more a night, like a couple $100, and trying to figure out if that works over another meal. So. Well, cool, man.
So
go ahead.
I just remembered one other thing, just real quick. So
Yeah.
you can actually do assigned weeks as well. So you can DVC will assign you a week, much like a normal timeshare kind of thing. You don't have to use it, but you can, you'll be guaranteed that week for a DVC stay as well. So they do have that option available for folks if they choose to look into that. So like you're on a public school schedule, on these times of year you're off, you can pick that week for a DVC stay kind of thing. So,
Okay.
I did do a little research today. Again, I've been in bed for a while, but little trivia. Do you know what the second DVC resort was?
Yes. Animal Kingdom.
Nope. Vero
No.
Beach.
Vero Beach. That's right. Yes.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Vero Beach,
Forget about that place.
and then Hilton Head behind it, and then
Right.
Animal Kingdom after
Animal
that.
Kingdom. Right.
At $17,000 for membership at Animal Kingdom. But that's fascinating that they had Key West, which I assume was a success, and then went outside to Vero, which I've never been to. I've tried to book a couple times. It's impossible. And Hilton Head, same way. They're very small. I think actually we could have gotten rooms one time at Hilton Head, but it was so expensive we decided to skip it, even though I want to see them all. But I love. What are there? 16 now, something like that. 16 different resorts. I mean, Boardwalk,
I think
Beach
there's
Club,
16.
Disneyland Hotel, which I love. Disney
Right.
California,
Grand Californian, Aulani, Animal Kingdom, Old Polynesian, Bay Lake.
Hilton Head, Vero, Riviera, Saratoga, and the cabins in Copper Creek, Boulder Ridge.
And
So Wilderness Lodge kind of is going to have
Boardwalk.
four, right? They'll have basically four of their own timeshares or DC. I don't want to call it timeshare because it's not.
I mean, so the cabins are at Fort Wilderness, and they're on some type of new contract type of thing. And the rumor is that the Lakeshore Lodge is supposed to join that what do they call it? It's some kind of it's not just a DVC type thing. It's a lease program kind of thing that you buy into.
See, now you
And
made it complicated.
I'm sorry, I don't.
Jeff
That doesn't really change anything, but at the same time, it's something different than the original 14 that it is. And it's, again, they'll probably have a resale contract, and I'm sure they will, because resale restriction, and because all the new ones seem to have that. So
we'll bring you back on for a follow-up report on that. Our cub reporter in the field.
there you go.
Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. And I know
thanks for coming.
doing it a couple weeks ago and then moved it back. And I appreciate you being so generous with your time.
Thank you.
Glad we have all the equipment to work here.
That works great. It's the magic of Ecamm.
Yes.
And you
Right.
can use to save 15%. You can use Jeff C's affiliate link, which is probably Ecamm/Jeff C. That's how I got mine. So I do love this software, and since he's here, I'll give him credit. But thanks, Andrew. Everything going well over there? I'm not going to ask about your YouTube channel.
Don't ask. Everything's going good. I am editing a truck video, so that'll come out. Thanks for a little plug the other night on Lou's
I was going to say
podcast. You brought it. I was like, yes, he brought it up.
So, Jason, Andrew has probably my favorite YouTube channel, which is his channel's called Mouse Gears.
Stole
He
it.
does Disney stuff, and he builds race cars. So it's
Yep.
perfect.
Yep.
But his truck is named Big Al, and so the other night I got to plug that a little bit.
Yeah.
It was on without being too. I don't know the rules. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention that. I don't know. So,
You don't care.
I'm really not good at pushing myself out there as much as I'd
Yep.
like to be.
But I'll have that. I hope to have it done by Saturday and posted. If I can
There you go.
If I
But
can
I
just
do-
let myself do it.
I do enjoy do this. I could talk Disney every single night, and my family gets a little sick of it after a while. And
So does
a lot of my
mine.
local friends just, not huge Disney fans. So this is a lot of fun, and thanks for letting me share it with you guys. So let's see real quick while I'm here. Are we here next Tuesday? Because then I'm trying to figure out if I could take my computer with me to Key West, because I'll be in Key West week after next. So we might have to figure something out. No, yeah, next Tuesday's fine. So we can bounce back in our regular time. Thanks, guys, for everybody in the chat who joined us. Jeff and Caleb and Karen, I really appreciate it. You guys are great, and you guys are what keep me getting out of bed and coming back, even when I'm not feeling
Thanks,
great.
guys, for coming by.
Jason, again, thanks, and we'll see you
Yes,
guys
sir.
next
Sure.
week.
Thank you.
Have a good
All right.
night.